Hello. A short video again on my adventures with Claude Code in my digital garden. And this time it's about okay, how do I keep Claude Code organized when I'm not really properly coding? Because when you're coding, you've got like version management, you've got branches and features and Git and everything. But I'm using Claude Code way more as almost like a free-form content management and thought management system. And my way of keeping track and keeping things orderly is actually using sessions as topics, as work items. So as you can see here, this has been a really long session where I did a lot of redesigning of my digital garden metadata. So I worked on things like triples and topics and attributes, basically kind of trying to invent some kind of knowledge graph that's more free form than the rigid SCOS or RDF. So this has been long. This has been a multiple day session where you can see I'm consolidating a lot of metadata. And if I just kept working in this session, the context would become so big that at a certain point, Claude would probably say like, hey, let's summarize or it starts forgetting things. So to prevent that from happening, I'm really disciplined in trying, or I try to be disciplined in keeping one work item in one session. Once I'm done, I created a little skill like, okay, I basically tell Claude to let's wrap up any open items left. And what that will do, with a bit of luck, and of course now it has to go through the entire session, um, and it will kind of summarize what's still open. I need to do a handover, and this is actually the skill that helps me keeping things organized in Claude Code. I need to update the release notes, another handy skill. We need to scan the tool shed, which is basically the part of my garden where all my meta information about how to use this garden lives, and all the tools and the skills. And we need to stop the dev server that I started on localhost. And we have some untracked files that I probably need to look at. Um, okay. And a push request. So it's kind of summing up everything that's happened in this session. And because I actually did this already before I started recording, there's no more open ends. But sometimes it will also discover like, hey, you also talked about this and this topic. Would you like me to kind of create a new work item for you? For now, this is fine. Yeah, fine, start handover. And what this will do is it will check again whether anything is left. It will kind of ask me like, okay, what some in summarization, what was this session about? And this is definitely knowledge schema rework. Status of the remaining work. Well, I know I committed stuff or might still need to commit some stuff, but other than that, I'm done in this session. So any open items are already closed and any new open items are ready to be picked up from the backlog. And the backlog is actually a central, simple markdown file that lives in my project folder that I call every time I start a new session. So it's now automatically writing a sign off for this session that will be posted in my release notes. And it will write a handover for the next session and put that on my backlog. And this is the one thing that I identified as something that I wanted to work on, but not in the current session. So investigating into a formal ontology layer will be a work item that I can pick up in a new session. Add to the backlog, yes, please. So that will write this little card to my central backlog file so I can retrieve it once I start a new session. Before we do that, so that's the backlog updated. Hope okay. Okay. And we are committing the handover. So this handover is actually also committed to my Git pages. So we can keep track of that in a central history that's in my repo. And the thing is, I don't work with formal branches in my repo because most of my work is content management and content editing. And if I have to create different branches for like 20 articles at the same time, that kind of is, overshooting for the actual purpose and the thing I'm trying to get at. So instead, I use my sessions as almost like pseudo branches. But the problem is that all these sessions still work on the same branch of my repo. So I have to be very careful about the order in which I do things. And that is why I try to not work on too many sessions at the same time. If I do, at most one session can be about structural changes in the digital garden software, if you will. And all the others are mostly about content creation. Like here, we've got like create an article for return of the button, designing some conversational patterns that kind of go beyond conversation as the metaphor, prepare a keynote for the linguistics symposium for Doris. So these are not kind of interfering with the bigger structure of my garden, and that's why I feel they're safe to work on in parallel. And the backlog actually helps me to keep working in a certain order and make sure that I first finish one thing and then start the next thing. We've got two more skills that need to be run. The release notes should be updated. Yes, that's fine to proceed. So the release notes are what's in my public digital garden for you all to follow, like, hey, what's happening here? And the toolshed scan is like, hey, did we change anything in skills, in memory, any kind of, Claude code related stuff that we also need to document so that in the future I know what has happened in the past and I also can troubleshoot a little bit more easy. Okay, so we're committing the backlog. And as you can see, I'm very strict with Claude. It's not allowed to do anything on its own. Also, it's not allowed to anthropomorphize because I absolutely hate that when it says, oh, I'll put my hands behind my back and let you do the work. I'm like, come on, you're a software tool. Please be as software-y as possible. Don't anthropomorphize. It hurts. So here it's interesting. I've done quite a lot of work on what I call an ingestion skill. So I basically send web links and interesting stuff to a Telegram account, which is my inbox, and from there it will ingest these sources. But there was a little bit of overlap with other like metadata layers that were also parts of other skills. So I've kind of unified that all, and it's so funny because I thought I'd be more kind of doing more writing in my garden, but I do find that I actually love designing the system as well, and especially the knowledge layer. Also, kind of triggered by how Andrei Karpathy's LLM wiki looked really promising, but at the end of the day, it's just aggregating and generating, synthesizing words rather than creating knowledge. More on that in a later video. So let's see. There we go. So my release notes are ordered by day. This is fine. Ba, ba, ba. So I basically read this and yeah, good to go. So as you notice, I do use GenAI to generate content, but not to generate thoughts or knowledge. This is what I typically see as a content derivative. I've done the work, and rather than me summarizing, I let GenAI propose a summary, I review, and when I'm like, okay, this is good, because there's no kind of interpretation happening here, right? It's just factual extraction of things that we both worked on. So for these content derivatives, I'm perfectly okay for using GenAI, especially because it's trained on my voice. And I'm always in the loop. Nothing goes out there without me having seen it. Except the web link summaries, I'm not quite sure. So that's another daily job that I have. Like, hey, is nothing leaking into the garden without my supervision? Call it bullish, but I honestly, yeah, I want to be in control of my own thoughts. And I want to give Claude the place that it should have, but also that it deserves. Because honestly, it is a great helper for when you're working with structured authoring, when you want to organize thoughts. Like my head is all over the place. It's definitely not linear. And working with a tool in this way, it really forces me to sit down and think things through from beginning to end. So that's a lovely application of GenAI, I find. Okay. So now the final step is doing the toolshed scan. So it's going through all my metadata files. I've got quite a few, and that's actually the next step. I need to kind of harmonize them all into one single source of truth. What's it doing here? It's reading all the skills that I created. I also have a publishing routine. So when I publish an article, there's like a separate section in my source content where I create a little blog for LinkedIn and it will kind of pick that up and post it automatically. Again, written by me. And it does matter, doesn't it, when you if whether you write something yourself or have it generated, because my one main concern with creating this digital garden at the speed that I'm doing now is that I don't know what it's all about any longer. Um, and that's a concern. That's what I call keeping the weeds, the AI weeds out of the garden. That's something I actively work on every day, not by being in this digital garden, but actually by staying away from it, by making sure that I have enough time and space to do proper reading, proper thinking, proper digesting, proper note taking on paper. So, in a way, Gen AI, I feel, is kind of forcing me almost to be more out there in the real world with my own thoughts. And that more and more is becoming a habit rather than something I have to carve out, of which I'm really, really happy because that's what we used to be like before all this happened, weren't we? Like, yeah. Um, so it's done, it's committed a lot of stuff to the tool shed, the mycelium section, fine, fine, fine. Um, push to origin. Sure, go ahead. And all these like push commands are a great reminder that hey, we are working with a repo here, we're working with software here, and I'm actually quite happy to have this kind of techie jargony speak in Claude Code because this is definitely not chatting, right? This is not chatting on like a social conversation level. This is really task oriented. We're doing stuff here. We're creating stuff. Okay. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, let's see. Apparently, we've got some things kind of going out of line with, out of sync with each other. That's the annoying thing about Opus 4.7. Uh, 4.6 was way more diligent about, like, hey, what have we done already? With Opus 4.7, I feel I need to rewrite my skills a little bit. Da, 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 da. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. So actually, what happened here is while I was doing the big restructuring work, my Telegram sync from yesterday also ran and also committed something to the repo. So what we'll do now is we'll rebase. So basically, um, make sure that a Telegram commit is in the proper order, and then kind of commit all work after that on top of that. Yeah, I know I've got things unstaged. Yeah, that's fine. So I'll pause this video because this might take a while, and when I'm back, I'll show you what my new session, Claude Code Management, looks like. So back again, and as you can see, this session is now closed, and we can start a new one. So typically, what I do now is I archive this session, so it's actually gone. I can start a new one. So my sessions here only show sessions that are still open and that I'm actively working on. Once they're done, I archive them. We can start a new session. Hi, Claude. And I know anthropomorphization, okay, I don't do that, but saying hi, Claude, I don't know. I mean, when I bike to the station, I also greet my bicycle, I guess, and it's got a name, so but it's also fully functional. What's on the backlog today? So what I will do now is it will pull from my central backlog markdown file. And you can see it's using a scale for that, the backlog scale, which I created. It's reading the backlog. Da, da, da. It takes a while. Should prove. Oh, it is on Sonnet, so that's good. I was thinking, like, hey, are we on Opus? It's interesting. Apparently, now my new sessions start with Sonnet by default. Hmm. So it's now reading my inbox. That's the other thing that happens when I start a new session. It kind of retrieves anything I send to my Telegram account, which is usually like web links and stuff. It's reading the health report because every day automatically, that's over here in routines. You can see I've got a garden backend review, got a weekly ping, some refinements and stuff. So I've got some routines that take care of like garden health automatically. Okay, so this is great. Oh, I should probably be closing some backlog items. Um, and I mean, this is fine, right? Because honestly, this is basically just a list of my ideas. There's no hard deadline to this, so let me skip this for now. But typically, Claude will ask, like, hey, considering what you've worked on recently, here are some things that you could pick up, or considering the status of a certain item. This is something you might want to pick up. But it doesn't matter if this list becomes really long because it's basically just my brain dump for things that I might want to pick up in the future. Um, and for now, for instance, have I auto tagged? What about the thing is that everything I write myself is labeled as 100% my. And I've started writing in this garden way before I started implementing more advanced metadata layers. So some of my earlier articles don't have all the metadata yet. And I created a little on the fly interface, but I'm not sure how far I got with that action. So it's now actually running like, hey, which 100% my articles have triples already, because that's the distinguishing factor. And as you can see, this is just a nice way to start to, first of all, get an overview of what you want to do, and then start working on one or two of these items. And keeping things orderly and manageable. I won't dive into the actual details of this work, that might be part of another video, but just to give you an idea on how you can keep your Claude code orderly if you're not working with formal branches, features, and GitHub, for instance, you can use sessions for that, plus a backlog. And that's just a really easy way to stay on top of everything. Yeah, that's it for now. Goedjes, talk soon.